Hello there, friends. I do laugh sometimes. I really do at what some people do. Cyclists on pavements and footpaths, and I'm just walking up through the woods, and there's a middle-aged couple it's kind of sweet, in matching athletic gear, just jogging up through the woods, and you think, the foundations, they're not quite there. We've still got everything disjointed, and there's no reason for that couple to be running. But what happens is that people will follow fashions because they'll see something in an advert or in a drama or a sitcom that they're watching and think, if I go for a jog late afternoon, then I might live a life like the women in Sex and the City, or it's there's a very famous program in the late 90s here in the UK called This Life, and it followed a group of young lawyers. And there's a particular scene where Anna, who's the kind of crazy out there character, sort of the slutty one, basically the irresponsible one who does drugs, and she said a friend of hers, they're living together, says, Revlon makeup, how fancy. Said, I like to think that I'm wearing, she's Scottish, wearing the same makeup as Liz Hurley makes me think anything's possible. And we are all programmed, and we are all susceptible to further programming. It's quite bright. It's a nice evening, actually. It's quite mild. It's been extraordinarily windy today. But when you go online, it seems that with all the vitriol flying and people desperately trying to prove that their way is the right and only way to do things, you can get the impression, it programs you, you can get the impression that just because something is really popular and everybody's doing it, that it's the only way of doing things, and that it's the only way that's effective to actually get your particular message across. And I've watched in my time all of the big names. I've watched bits of Alex Jones or Bill Hicks, whichever name you choose to pick, and Gavin McInnes and Rebel Media and Joe Rogan, Tommy Robinson, Katie Hopkins, and I currently only watch one podcast, which is James Dellingpole's Delling Pod. But the thing that I'm finding with all of them is that they're increasingly backing themselves into corners, trying desperately to convince you that there's only one explanation for the way that the world is. And the trouble with it is, whether it's true or not, the trouble is it comes across as incredibly obnoxious. I've been talking about this a lot recently because my mission is to lead as good a life as I possibly can, help other men do the same, and do it in a peaceful way. And I've had a backlog of, not many, but a few emails in my inbox from a chap from Twitter that I subscribe to. I think we can go this side now. Very good. It's my usual angle. Sun shining in my face. And in order to sort of read it a bit quickly and to absorb the information, I actually used the voice dictate, the speaking option on my email application. And I sat there and I listened and thought, this chap, Aaron Will, has done tremendous work in distilling his process of how he's built his online business, and he does it in a unique, witty way. But there's no fluff, no bullshit, no filler, just pure value, as we say. And I really appreciate that. And now I've got a nigh on beautifully clear inbox, and I've come out from my walk, and I've already done my blog post, and I'm recording this video. And if you are on Twitter, I do actually record another video on a similar subject that tends to be a little bit more of a distilled video. I do put that video on Instagram and Facebook. You can just search for my name on either of those, but the main platforms I use are Twitter and YouTube. And you know, I hope to do the same. And the two other emails that I have in my inbox are from somebody else that I subscribe to, calls himself Richard IV, and his emails contain a YouTube video that he's recorded. So we learn things, how to market, different ways of putting our message forward, and we keep doing that with content that we're learning along the way. It's organic, natural feeling, and it doesn't feel quite so sensationalist as some of the, or obnoxious as some other people I'm finding to be, because I do have multifarious interests. But the most important thing is that you give people applicable information, stuff that they can actually do. Because what I found is that a lot of the people who I watch, they'll tell you, oh, you know, just vote for this party. I know you don't particularly like them, but you realise that they're always pushing you in a direction that isn't actually going to sort anything out meaningfully or positively or peacefully. It's always going to lead you to the same point. You know, politics is about an aggregation of power. It's not it's about principle. And I am the son of an architect, and what I will tell you is how important foundations are. And to me, the foundations of any good practice of living life is your principles. You know, I don't believe in rules being dictated to from on high, and decrees being issued and just having to comply with whatever bullshit is coming up next. And ultimately, the people with big followings, they will lead you in one way, shape or form to your demise, because it's always about relinquishing responsibility yourself and about handing it over to somebody else who you wouldn't trust, as I said in my other video, to run a kitchen tap, you know, or a piss up in a brewery. You know, it's becoming increasingly obvious that we have to find a more local, more individual solutions to the things that face us. And we can disagree or agree on what those are, but I think we understand that relinquishing control of our own lives and remaining sort of grown-up teenagers for the rest of our lives, that's not the answer. And what is the answer is bravery, the ability to say, okay, millions of other people are doing this, but I'm not. Taking a principled stand, because most of what we're actually working against is words online, and learning to say, well, actually, I think that we can take a more Christian approach, frankly, a more peaceful, a more unified, a more together way of doing things, rather than spending countless hours and days and months and years trying to convince people when Most people will not be convinced. They don't want to be convinced because they want to lead their lives of familiarity. And also understand that if you live by principle and you speak out boldly, decisively, but peacefully, that actually it doesn't take that many people to really affect powerful and positive change. So make your foundations as solid as you possibly can, as principled as you can. Do good things for good reasons and shun the naysayers. Say, this is what I'm doing, you can join me or not, but this is my life and I'm going to live it in the most noble and dignified way I can.